Obviously we got the Everton game. We lost to Everton last time, obviously 1-0. For me, I feel like that was a game whereby they had a new coach, new managers bounce and all of that stuff. Plus the fact that the way we played in that game as well, that game kind of exposed some of the issues that we're gonna have going forward and stuff like that. So I do feel like that game was a number of things coming together to affect us in that situation, But I don't think that's really going to be something that's really going to be a case going like in this game. We're going to play them right now. I don't think that should be an issue in this game. When you look back to the Everton game, it was more of a case of like obviously new manager, players trying to impress. The way they played in their midfield, they kind of exposed our weakness in the midfield, whereby they had way more mobility in midfield, with the likes of what Ducore, who was it? Was it Gay in there and was it Iwobi? I can't remember what the other guy's name was, but they just had a bunch of, they were just very physical. They were making a lot of runs. Onana, that's it. Onana was the one who was making the majority of those runs into the final third, and that was something that we lacked in our team as well, where they were having more movement from midfield in there, and they were sitting really deep, defending their block, defending really organized. The way Sean Dyche likes to play, defending really deep, but they were able to break lines with their midfielders overlapping and running into the final third and creating situations from there. But we saw that was some of the issues we were having, whereby we lacked mobility in our midfield and we weren't able to break their lines, and they were sat really deep, but we were just playing right in front of them. So that was also basically played into their game. But like that game is in the past, anyways. That's gone. And even I feel like going into this Everton game, we're going into this game. Yeah, we beat United going into the Everton game, but I feel like now that we've been through all of the stuff that we've gone through after losing to Everton, losing to Man City, dropping points to Brentford, going out of the FA Cup and stuff like that, I feel like now we understand what could possibly happen, the consequences of us playing having a poor game and knowing that we still need to get a result. Because if you think about the Aston Villa game, we didn't have a great game there. We had a poor game, but we still got a result that we needed. And if you look at also the game against let me look back on it as well. The game against Leicester as well, we didn't necessarily have a great game either, but we got the result. So I feel like going into this Everton game, we understand what could go wrong with not performing well, but we understand that we still need to get a result. So I feel like we're going into this game understanding, because prior to all of that, to this period of games whereby we were dropping points, everything seemed like it was smooth. We were just winning games and just winning games and stuff like that. So it seemed like it was easy. But going through this negative period that happened, I feel like it's only going to help us to grow, because we've seen what the possibility of losing is and dropping points is, and not being able to play at our best, and also like losing the massive lead that we have at the top. I think the players they're young players, so all of this is all experience for them, and they're able to understand what to do. So I feel like we're going into this game with a lot better and a lot smarter going into this Everton game. So I don't think it should be an issue. But even looking back at the Leicester game, for me, I mean, it wasn't a great game, but I feel like we dominated that game anyways. We dominated the game. We controlled all of the ball. They didn't do nothing. They couldn't get any shots or anything like that. They really couldn't do anything. Even when they tried to counter attack, we could easily drop back and defend that. We just weren't decisive in the final third, and that's something that we're gonna need in this Everton game as well. We're gonna need to be a lot more decisive in this game. I think that was the only concern. We dominated the game, but we just weren't efficient in the final third. We weren't taking the chances. We weren't creating better chances with the situations that we did create, and those were some of the concerns that were there. And then even when you look at the goal that we scored, where Trossard drifted to the wide area, and Martinelli came on the inside and scored that goal. That was one of the few times that we created a good situation. Obviously, Trossard had his goal cancelled out. That was clearly a foul, obviously, because Ben White was holding the goalkeeper's hand, so you can accept that. But at the same time, we didn't create enough situations that game. But I'm still glad that we didn't perform well, but it was a great result. And I feel like it's important for us to, especially for these young players, to go through this kind of period where they're able to win games, win narrow games, understand how to defend the games and stuff like that, and be able to ensure that these aren't things that can be repeated. You get so going through this experience is only going to help them. They're young players. They haven't been through this kind of thing. They haven't been through a title race. They haven't been through these kind of situations. Obviously, you have certain players in the team that have been through this, like Gabriel Jesus or Jorginho or Zinchenko, who have been through these situations. But a lot of the team haven't been through any of these situations. So all of this is all experience for them, and hopefully that helps them going into the Everton game. Other thing I wanted to mention is the way we ended that game as well. I thought, again, like I said, we dominated the game. The only concern was towards the end of the game, we kind of invited pressure on ourselves. We ended the game with three defensive midfielders on the pitch, Xhaka, Partey and Jorginho, and we invited the Leicester pressure. Obviously, they didn't really do anything with the pressure, but it's like that's not really a situation that we should really be in because you never know what could happen. They could score a late goal, and it's very difficult to then switch the momentum again. I felt like earlier in the game we probably should have made more changes to try and get the second goal, more offensive kind of changes, maybe Fabio Vieira in for Xhaka or something like that, whereby we could have been a bit more offensive and be a bit more decisive in the final third, but instead we ended up inviting pressure on ourselves, which ended up not helping us again. We ended up having to defend towards the latter stages of the game. But again, these are all things that is going to help our experience in not just the players but also the managers. So you have to realize Arteta's a young coach as well. So and the one thing is obviously you understand that a lot of his subs are pre-planned and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, he's still learning, he's still growing. And at the end of the day, so I feel like these are all things that's going to help us to improve and help him to improve as well. One thing I wanted to mention as well is I did say I feel like going through this stage of this poor form and stuff like that, I think is a testament to the strength of the team that we've still been able to maintain our spot at the top and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, we've not really been playing well since the Everton game. In all of those games, we haven't played well, and I think it was 5 games: the Everton game, the Brentford game, Man City, Aston Villa, Leicester. 5 games. We didn't really play well in any of those games, but we got results against Villa, we got results against Leicester. We managed to get a draw against Brentford, even though the VAR prevented us from getting the win there. But we still managed to get results in certain games. So I feel like it's testament to the team and the way how good we are as a team. I feel like the base level of this team is really good. We're really good in terms of dominating the ball. We're really good, very good defensively, very organized. You saw against Leicester the way we dropped back quickly once the ball was lost. Even one of their players after the game was saying about how every time they tried to hit us on the counter attack, we quickly got back in numbers and defended that area and blocked them off, and they couldn't do anything because we had numbers behind the ball instantly. So I feel like the base level of this team is very good. Defensively, we're very good. Offensively, we're able to dominate the ball, pin the opposition back, and keep on recycling the ball in the final third to create situations. I think where the issues then comes is when we're playing well, we can be more efficient and more decisive in the final third. But when we're not playing well, that's when we're not that efficient in the final third, or we can end up getting draws or maybe losing a close game like the Everton one. You see what I mean? Or like the Brentford game. But the base level of the team is really good, and that's why despite this whole poor run of form and stuff like that, you can see that we're still competitive and we're still at the top of the league and we're still able to win against Leicester, still able to win against Aston Villa. And I feel like we're going to win against Everton just simply based on the fact that the base level of this team is just really good. We're a very good team. So even when we're out of form, you can still see that we're still able to dominate, create situations, and we're still able to take our chances. In some periods, obviously, that's where the issue comes, but we're still able to dominate this game and create situations. And that's why we're top of the league at the moment, because despite the form, we're still a very good team. We're playing like relatively well. But again, like I said, I have been saying we have like 5 games at the moment. Five like a run of five games, including this Everton game that's coming, whereby the games are relatively easier to the last 9 games of the season. So we've got 14 games left, but the next 5 games are relatively easier to the last 19 games. And I think we need to get our groove back. You know, like I said just now, yes, we have the base level of the team is really good. We're able to dominate games. We can defend and prevent teams from scoring against us. We can dominate the ball, but the issue then becomes us being efficient in the final third. You know what I mean? To ensure that we don't end up picking up draws or close losses and things like that. And for that to happen, we need to get our groove back. We need to get back to how we were in the first half of the season, where we're more efficient in the final third, creating more chances, you know, and turning our dominance into wins, and turning our dominance into more shot creation, into more chances created, and into more goals, basically, essentially in the end. And I feel like we need to use these next 5 games right now, which are relatively easier, to get our groove back. Because in the next 9 games after that, in those games, we're not going to be able to get away with some of the form that we're seeing right now. We won't be able to get away with some of these things because we can't play poorly in games against Newcastle or games against Man City, games against Chelsea, you know, things like that. We're gonna have to play Brighton and stuff like that. So we can't have these kind of wobbly games with those kind of things, because these are teams that can take their chances against us and beat us. So we need to be more cautious in those kind of games. And I feel like going into those games now, we need to also see that we need to use these next 5 games, build our confidence, get back in the groove, and then start trying to what's it called, and then ensure that when we go into these 9 games, we're prepared, because we're also playing Liverpool as well. So I think we've got 5 big games in the last 9 games, and we can't go into those games in poor form. So I feel like, yeah, right now, obviously these things happen. You can't be consistent for the whole season, but now this is the period that we can use to get back in the groove, get back into our good form, and then prepare ourselves for the last 9 games of the season, because that's going to be crucial towards winning the title. Um, but again, yeah, the last thing I want to talk about with regarding to looking back at the Leicester game is just just really poor officiating. You look at what's it called, like the situation with Saka, for example, that was clearly a pet foul. I mean, like, you can understand where the referee takes away our goal for Ben White holding the goalkeeper's hand, but it's like Saka was clearly fouled in the box. It's like there's been various issues with officials this season. I mean, we've had so many. So we've had what, the penalty against Leicester that Saka should have had. Well, Gabriel, when you remember when Dan Burn held Gabriel against Newcastle and we ended up drawing that game. The penalty could have helped us to win the game. That's an extra 2 points that we dropped. You think about Norgard being offside when he got the ball back to Tony, and the referee just decided not to draw the line. I mean, you think about that and you feel like that's another 2 points dropped again. Look back again, another one, Gabriel, when he was fouled in the box against Mope. When Mope fouled him against Everton, we lost that game. That could have been a penalty. Think about Gabriel Jesus against Southampton, when, what's his name, Kaleta Carr against Southampton, when he fouled Gabriel Jesus inside the box. That could have been a penalty. We ended up drawing that game. That's another 2 points dropped again. You look at Odegaard's foul on Ericsson, where the referee said it was a foul. For me, it wasn't really a foul. He gave the ball to Martinelli, and we scored against United, but the referee ruled that out, and we ended up losing that game. So it's like there's just been various issues throughout the whole season from the referees that's just really cost us in this game here and this game there. We've just been having various issues there that we just constantly been that's costing us against the referee. But we just have to just continue. Like I said, we can't allow this game to be close. Just take our chances, try and end this game, because the officials are not helping us. We're competing against both the officials and Man City at the same time to win the league. But this season has been really. We're obviously in a very difficult stage of the season right now, and the officials aren't helping us. But we can only help ourselves anyways. But